Welcome back to Native Strength. I'm your host, Hyapatia. In our last episode, we discussed depression that comes from within. Low self-esteem and our internal fear-feeder voices are part of the reason that so many people in the world suffer from depression. But there are also external forces, and there are many times where the two can overlap. As always, there are medicine wheels that explain these external forces. The Mayans were experts on this. This particular wheel usually starts in the southeast. As you can see, the inner self is a big contributor to our depression, and that's why I devoted the last episode to these causes. When we project our beliefs or expectations onto others, pretending we know the truth without asking questions, and listen to our fear feeder voices, our life is an illusion. We aren't seeing reality for what it is. But there are also things in our external world that can significantly impact our mental health. Now, most people naturally think of others and how they affect us, but there are other contributing factors to this equation. Our environment can hold us back in ways we may never have even thought about. If you were born in an area with little opportunity, you won't be able to fulfill your full potential there. Like I mentioned in the medicine story about the value of your life, you'll have to take yourself to a precious stone store or a museum, so to speak, for the value of your worth to be recognized. This simply may not be possible. Economic factors may hold you back tremendously. It takes money to make money. One can't even apply to college without a cash investment that is insurmountable for many people. If you can't apply, you certainly aren't going to get a scholarship. If you can't provide for your basic shelter and clothing needs, work is virtually impossible. It would be almost unnatural to not become depressed in situations like these. If we find ourselves in a situation like a pandemic or natural disaster, our plans will be severely interrupted. This will limit our ability to follow our sacred dream and find joy. Our freedoms are curtailed, and we may feel abused. It's human nature to want to blame someone or something for our predicament. But most of these situations have no clear-cut villain. Even if they did, placing blame on the right cause is rarely going to solve the problem. It might make us feel emotionally better, give us a brief release for our anger, but it really doesn't change anything. These problems require adaptation. You've probably heard me say it before, but things will always change. The person or the species who adapts the fastest will be the most successful. The worst thing we can do is to ignore it and pretend it will go away. Of course, most of our external causes of depression have to do with the people that we interact with. We all have needs, wants, and desires in life. The wise person prioritizes and concentrates on their needs first. A mature person will find ways to get their needs met that don't inconvenience others. However, there are many people in this world that don't really know how to take care of themselves. They confuse their needs with wants and desires, so that everything seems like a matter of survival to them. Because of this overimportance on what they want and their inability to get their own way, they often manipulate others into doing their bidding. The key to successfully overcoming people who force their will on us like this lies in the wheel of life. When we place their behavior on this wheel, we get clues as to the best ways to handle them. Now we enter what the Mayans called the masks of the tyrants. These are people who are trying to get their needs met but have very little tools available to them. They usually resort to forcing their will on others in a subtle or overt way. They're on the victim, persecutor, rescuer triangle, looking for someone to save them. They're also dancing on the circle of foxes, influenced by what others think and do instead of following their own path with integrity. After examining our own inner tyrant who beats us up with our fear feeder voices, we move to the South. You'll remember the South stands for our childhood, among other things, and these people can be like annoying children. They complain to us a lot. They borrow things and may never return them. They pester us with their demands. And they can also be religious zealots who are set on forcing their beliefs onto others. The way to save yourself from these kinds of people is to treat them somewhat like children. We may have to patiently explain our point of view and firmly stand our ground. Our biggest mistake when dealing with these kinds of people is caring more about what they think of us than how we feel about ourselves. As we move around the wheel to the southwest, we encounter sly and devious people. These could be criminals, or they could just be accustomed to manipulating the truth for their own benefit. Our codependent relationships sit in the west of this wheel because they limit our physical involvement with the rest of the world. They hold us back on our journey to becoming free, autonomous individuals. Our officials have a vested interest in keeping us in the dark. They manipulate the truth to make themselves look better. They are prone to sly and devious behavior, and they are often natural exploiters. Because these people sit in the Southwest, they will use our interpretations of their words and events to try and manipulate us into thinking that they have our best interests at heart. Since the Southwest stands for interpretations, the way to overcome these people is to properly interpret what they're saying. You have to do your research. Do their actions follow their words? Are you beginning to see how the wheel of life can be used to help us in just about every situation? It can be applied to all of the other wheels to get a deeper understanding. It provides us with keys to overcoming our obstacles. These people were pretty smart. Most people think of physically violent people when talking about those who cause us depression. Abuse and violent people sit in the West, the direction of our physical world. Sociopaths and tyrants are like grown children, so they sit in the south of this wheel. Abusers physically attack us, so they go in the west. Sexual abusers and felons are primarily about control and evil intent, so they belong in the north. Psychopaths and murderers are in the east, since they have no viable connection to their higher power. They're ignoring karma. Since this entire wheel sits in the west, the best way to deal with these people is to get the hell away from them, if at all possible. We really may not have any other choice, other than to fight unto the death. The Northwest is the direction of planning and patterns. The wheel of Northwest tyrants begins in the South with social leaders. When they act as a tyrant or a bully, they force us into patterns of behavior that are convenient for them but may go entirely against our needs. They have a vested interest in making us conform because it reflects on them. This means that our inner children will probably be shunned for their originality. Unless we think and act like they do, we will be seen as the enemy.
It's our challenge to avoid the circle of foxes and keep dancing with the coyotes when we're confronted with someone like this. We can't allow ourselves to be affected by their opinions of us. We have to stay true to our heart. We have to stand up for ourselves and our belief.
Social leaders sit in the south of this northwest wheel. They play on our emotional desire to fit in and be accepted by others. They want to mold and sculpt us into someone they can be proud of. Our behavior reflects on them. So if we decide to act in a way that is against their example, they take it personally. Keep in mind, these are the negative social leaders, not all of them. There are many that don't take such things personally.
In fact, keep in mind that all of these people I've been talking about are using negative energy on the wheel of life. Now, just because I mention a certain kind of a person, a borrower, someone who needs your help, an official, doesn't necessarily mean that they're using negative energy. It's when they disrespect us and infringe on our rights that they cross the line and become negative.
Our codependent sexual partners sit in the west of this wheel. They usually really don't mean us any harm. They're simply insecure to the point that it affects our life in a negative way. This can keep us from following our sacred dream and affect our self esteem. They exhibit the typical needy, wounded child behavior, and this can make us feel guilty when we show our independence. They may take this personally. They may think it means that we don't love them as much. They're in the West because it affects our ability to move about freely and follow our sacred dream independently. In the north of this wheel are our tyrannical caregivers. This type of person is very insistent that we do things their way. There is no other option. If we want their approval, which is the same as their love, we have to conform. Our behavior is seen as a reflection on them. And this same pattern holds true for the people who sit in the east of this wheel, our religious leaders. Giving in to our sinful nature is often seen as a reflection on them. In fact, this entire wheel consists of people who believe our behavior reflects on them in some way. These are the patterns that they've seen play out in their own life. They haven't really had any role models who are healthy, independent individuals dancing with the coyotes. All they've ever known are those who are on the circle of foxes.
This is an amazingly common phenomenon. And that's why I took the time in the first season of Native Strength to give positive and negative male and female examples all around the entire wheel of life. Most people have never seen positive examples all around the wheel. In fact, what we've often been told is desirable behavior can actually be quite detrimental.
If we choose only negative energy, we'll always wind up on the circle of foxes. Positive energy will keep us dancing with the coyotes.
We all use male and female energy. Female energy is more introverted. It sees how things affect us, and it tries to make changes from within. Male energy is more extroverted. It tries to make changes externally.
The tyrants who sit on the north wheel have negative intent. In the south of this wheel, we have our sad loved ones. Now, you might say, how can a sad loved one have a negative intent? This isn't just someone who's depressed. This is the kind of person who doesn't find joy in the success of others they say they care about. Instead, they always want to find the dark side of every happy situation. If you've ever seen the Saturday Night Live sketch with Debbie Downer, this is what I mean. We may have just won $1 million, but they're more focused on how people will try to steal our money and our friends will only like us because of what we can do for them. They only see the negative in every situation. And the worst part is that they're quick to point it out to us.
How do we counteract this behavior? By focusing on intent. We may point out that they always have something negative to say and question the intent of each of their comments.
In the previous example of winning lots of money, we could ask why they think our friends would only want our money. We could ask them if this would be their intent. And if not, what makes them think others would be different? The selfish people in our world only care about what we can do for them. Their entire purpose for being in our life is to get something from us. It may be money, a job, prestige, or an ego boost, but it's not about appreciating our company and being a reciprocal friend. When we get to the north, we encounter this kind of person on steroids, so to speak. They may not have gotten what they wanted or expected from us, and now they've decided to become vindictive. They've tricked their mind into believing that we're the bad guy and deserve punishment. Our arrogant officials sit in the east of this wheel. They've fooled themselves into thinking that they're enlightened and in harmony with sacred law because they believe they truly are better than the rest of us and therefore deserve more.
Again, by focusing on intent, the direction that this entire wheel represents, we can find the truth behind their words and either confront them with it or move to another path entirely.
Those who infuriate us sit in the northeast. This wheel focuses on domineering people. In the south are our parents and partners. They sit in the south because we love them and want to please them. They know this. Their dominance plays on our emotions. Dominant authority figures can be physically dangerous and deadly, so they sit in the West. The best we can do with these people is to stay as far away as possible and remove them from power. Now, this may require physical action. Political demagogues who force their painful agenda on others sit in the north. They pretend to be wise and try to fool us into thinking that they have our best interests at heart, when in fact, their intent is to line their own pockets and to give themselves more power. Terrorists are in the east of this wheel because they use their belief in the Creator to force their will on others. First Nations people may have fought over resources and land. They may have had wars of revenge and anger, but they never fought over the afterlife. Terrorists are dead set on forcing us to believe that their way is the only way and to embrace it wholeheartedly. Most of the time, these people are only infuriating until we meet them in person. That's when they cross over to the West Wheel and become violent tyrants.
It's best to avoid the people on this wheel, if at all possible. But what about our parents and partners? It may not be possible to cut them out of our life.
Since they sit in the south of this wheel, the best way to deal with them is to use south energy, the childlike emotions of trust and innocence. We may ask them, without emotion, why they want us to do things their way. Will they take full responsibility if things don't work out and we're unhappy? Will they have to deal with the personal ramifications like we will? Of course not. Life is about learning through trial and error. It's about making mistakes. If our loved ones don't love us enough to allow us to grow by making our own mistakes, they're saying that they don't trust us. We could point this out to them. They've probably never thought of it this way before. We know they're trying to save us heartache, but by living our life for us, they're crippling us. Sometimes people make assumptions in life. They put their actions on autopilot. They follow the steps of their caregivers because they haven't seen a need for change and they don't know a better way. We may have to point this out to them in a kind and understanding way. In the East, on this big wheel, we have tyrannical rulers. They sit here because they want us to think that they're enlightened. Originally, most kings and emperors claimed to be of divine descent, so this is another reason that they sit in the East. It's on this wheel that we find communists, dictators, totalitarians, and autocrats. The communists sit in the South because they pull on our emotions. We all want a fair and equal society, and this is what they count on and what they emphasize. But what they don't tell us is that the leaders will be in a separate class, sitting in the lap of luxury at the expense of the masses. Dictatorships are the most efficient form of government because only one person makes all of the decisions. However, these decisions usually only benefit the dictator and his friends. So anyone who tries to speak out against him will be dealt with swiftly and harshly. Dictatorships tend to be some of the most brutal regimes. In many ways, all of the governments on this wheel are a form of dictatorship. Totalitarianism restricts opposition to the state of any kind. Just like dictatorships, disagreement and dissent are not tolerated. These systems are very controlling of their people, and there really is no freedom. Autocrats control the entire government, just like dictators. They crush any opposition. There's no tolerance of opinions that are not in alignment with the rulers. You can see that these systems are quite brutal and would make it impossible for one not to be depressed. When there's no freedom, there's no hope. All our work on our path must be done in our mind, and this is naturally quite limiting. You may have heard the traditional phrase, "It's a good day to die," or "Hoka hey." That was Crazy Horse's war cry. When we're faced with the tyrants of this East Wheel, we have to think about the next 7 generations. Throughout history, people have decided to make the ultimate sacrifice for their children and grandchildren. In World War II, men and women around the globe joined to selfishly fight against evil and won. Our world was saved from tyranny as a result. That's the kind of response that may be needed to guarantee freedom from these brutal dictators.
Keep in mind that these external sources of depression will probably leave you with anger, self-doubt, and frustration. Sometimes a normal, healthy response is to be sad or depressed. It can be a challenge for us to find new and better ways to get our needs met. Thank you for watching Native Strength.
Ayo, 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 ayo.